You're watching the Scottish Football Zone with all the build-up and reactions.
Hello, very good evening to you and welcome to the Scottish Football Zone. Well, we have got something positive to talk about after the European games tonight. And for the past couple of weeks, it's been a bit dire, you would have to say. Joined tonight by a famous face. No, not me, because I know I've got a famous face for other things, but let's not go into that. Jim Delahan has joined us on the show tonight. Jim, how are you?
Very well, Michael. Thank you very much for inviting me on. Delighted to be here, and obviously been keeping track on all the football tonight, and it wasn't looking very good for a wee while, but I think Celtic maybe rescued it just at the end there.
Yeah, no, exactly. Let's run through the scores quickly. I think the least we can talk about the Aberdeen game, the better, because apparently William Miller has called the Aberdeen score embarrassing for Aberdeen, but also you would maybe say embarrassing for Scottish football. Of course, they get beat 6-0 tonight in the Conference League. Rangers, well, what can you say for that, Jim? It just goes from bad to worse as they get defeated again, and also Danny Rowe went to the travelling fans to say thanks for coming across, and this fan had to be held back. I don't like to see that as well, and also the winners of the night came from the East End of Glasgow. I was interested to see how they bounced back from Sunday's defeat at Dens Park, as the final score was Celtic 2, Scrum-Graz 1. Get your comments coming in. We'll be here until 11 o'clock. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It's the Scottish Football Zone, and if you subscribe to it, you'll get a notification when we go live as well. So as we do, Jim, on these kind of shows, we always talk about the 8 o'clock game and what we're way back. Well, maybe not what we're way back, because it's waiting embarrassing night for Scottish football again. But as I said, Celtic were the winners tonight. Jim, what did you think of that performance? Because I think Celtic performed better towards after the half an hour mark tonight.
Well, I'll come to that in a minute. I'll just touch on those. I know you want to talk about Celtic. Yeah. I'll just touch on those other two games first of all, in case I don't get a chance later. Aberdeen, hugely disappointing tonight, but I actually spoke to one of my Scottish Sun colleagues who was in Athens this morning, and expectations, I can assure you, Michael, were not high at all for the fate of Aberdeen at tea time tonight. And that's the way it turned out, a 6-0 defeat. I actually saw on Twitter, I'm sure you saw it as well, Michael, there was a tweet from the Aberdeen Press and Journal reporter who was in the game, and he tweeted at halftime saying it's 3-0 here, and honestly, it could be 8. And that was at halftime. Yeah. And it obviously went on to be 6. And I've been listening to Willie Miller for longer than I care to remember. And I know that Willie gets fairly disgusted on a regular basis with some Aberdeen performances. And I can fully understand his mindset tonight after a result like that. Jimmy Thelin, I think personally, is on borrowed time simply because of that Scottish Cup win. I'm not sure how the Aberdeen fans will take this defeat. Was it simply a case of they expected to lose in Athens, or will they actually look at this in the morning and think, wait a minute, we should be doing better than this. We really should be doing better than this. In terms of Rangers, I thought tonight, they seemed to start okay, and then it didn't go very well after that. And it really was a poor performance. Defensively for the first goal was an absolute shocker, and it just got gradually worse. I also saw after the game James Tavernier speaking to the general press. I know the manager spoke to Rangers TV, but I saw James speaking to the general press, and he was expressing his disgust at the performance, the lack of fight from his fellow players. But I just think there's only so often you can say that before somebody actually has to put it right. I don't think we should be expecting Danny Rule to put it right after 2 days in the job. So I think we can probably give him a pass on tonight. It was really down to the players who, whatever he said to them over the last couple of days, they haven't really listened to it. It was the same attitude that's been prevalent in matches involving Rangers all this season. It was hugely disappointing for those travelling supporters, and there is just so much work to be done. It's not a walk in and sort it for Danny. There's so much work to be done. He's going to have to start right at the bottom, right from scratch, and build his way up. Now, the problem with that, Michael, as you know, is that the Rangers fans won't like that. So they expect instant success. They'll expect to get to the League Cup final by beating Celtic. They might do. Wouldn't that be fantastic for them? But I think there's an awful lot of work to be done there. Celtic, I watched a lot of that game tonight, just missed the last 10, 15 minutes there, but I know they won 2-1. They were losing 1-0, and I actually thought they were playing quite well. And of course, they got the equaliser, came through a slightly unlikely source, given all the attacking play that had been coming. It came from Liam Scales, the defender. And then I saw Nygren get the winner, and I'd seen him miss a few really obvious chances before that. So it was good to see him getting on the score sheet and getting the goal. So good result for Celtic in the end, although it just got a little bit shaky the last few minutes when I popped back in to see how things were going before I come on to chat to you. But at least they've got the 2-1 victory. The points are in the bag. And I just wonder, will that take the pressure off Brendan Rodgers just for a little while after referring to his players as Honda Civics at the weekend?
Yeah. Well, this is not a Honda Civic show, Jim. I'm more a Mercedes boy myself as well. This Paul Donaldson's. Paul is commenting on YouTube. He says, really disappointed for Aberdeen tonight. I don't blame Jimmy too much. Well, everybody's got an opinion, as I say, Paul. And I just wanted to touch upon the Rangers point very quickly, Jim, that you made there as well. Do you think Danny Rowe's been actually hand to dry a wee bit? Because as we know, he wasn't the first kind of like favourite to get the job. You would say most managers gets a honeymoon period. Well, I think it might be a divorce after tonight's game. But do you think that the board has got a lot to answer for here?
I think the board built the fans' hopes up by putting it out there that they were talking to Steven Gerrard when, as far as I understand, Steven Gerrard was miles away from actually agreeing to become Rangers manager. There were certain elements of his personal finances that had to be sorted out well in advance of even suggesting they might come back to Glasgow. And clearly, as the chat went on, those issues, shall we call them, weren't sorted out, and the Steven Gerrard thing collapsed in tatters. Obviously, then they thought, well, Muscat is the man for the job. Again, it was allowed to go out that this was an almost done deal, and it was just a case of Muscat signing the bit of paper to say that he would be leaving China as soon as he won the league. There was even chat being spun that Rangers would be happy if he never turned up in Glasgow till the 22nd of November, which I found extremely bizarre, with the greatest respect to the man they said that was going to take over in the meantime, and that was Neil McCann. That idea seems to have gone completely out the window very, very quickly. And then they've gone back to Danny Rule, who pulled out of the race just a couple of days before that, thinking that Muscat was getting the job. So Rangers pay big wages, and Danny Rule probably wasn't in a position to turn that offer down when they came back to him a second time. So I don't know about him being hung out to dry. I think it was very difficult for him just to walk in straight into a European tie away from home. He was never going to get all the players on side very quickly. I think he'll need time. The people I've spoken to, the people I've listened to would suggest to me that he is a very young man. I'm 63, so he's only 36. He's a very young man. but he's a young man going places, and I am sure that he will have a good career at Rangers once he gets in the door, gets to know the players, gets to know the club, and also is able to stamp his authority on the club. That may take a while, but I think you have to give him a little bit of time. I said at the start of the show that Rangers fans probably don't want to give him very much time, but I think realistically, you can't expect him to come in and turn that situation around straight away. So I think if it's at all possible, he needs 2 or 3 games just to get a feel for the situation and to start getting it right. But as we all know, those 2 or 3 games come thick and fast. There's games coming up against Hibs, game against Celtic, a game against Roma, not to mention the ones in between. So there is no time for Danny Röhl to settle in, but he's going to have to find some.
I think this is the first game in Scottish football history, Jim, that Celtic fans and Rangers fans has got something in common. They both don't like the people running the clubs. But going back to Celtic 2-1 tonight against Sturm Graz, obviously Celtic went behind, and you're thinking, oh no, it's going to be another disappointing night for Celtic, but also a Scottish club in Europe. They turned it around. I think their only disappointing point, if you ask Brendan Rodgers, would be as Alistair Johnson okay? And I'm sure before I came on air that Carter Vickers went off injured as well.
Yeah, obviously Iheanacho right very early in the game suffered some kind of injury and had to depart. I think he was barely on the pitch and he had to go. So that's a big blow, given that he has come in. He was criticism that Celtic went for him in the very first place, but he did come in and he has scored goals. So that was a huge disappointment for Celtic. The Alistair Johnson one was a real shocker because you've nursed a guy back from an injury like that, and then within a few minutes and within a couple of sprints, he's straight back off again. So that's a huge worry. Alistair Johnson going off, and right at the end again, because we were coming on, Michael, I didn't hang on to see exactly what happened with Carter Vickers, but he did seem to be in some discomfort. And again, I mentioned all these big games coming up for Rangers, but look at these big games coming up for Celtic, and they don't come much bigger than the one coming up on Sunday, which would normally be a run-of-the-mill game for Celtic going to Tynecastle. But and I say that with the greatest respect to Hearts, but it's not a run-of-the-mill game on Sunday because Hearts are 5 clear. They're at home, and they could go 8 points clear if they can manage to beat Celtic on Sunday. So with those 3 major injury worries heading to Sunday, I think the Celtic fans will be listening and reading and trying to find out exactly what the situation is with those players as we approach the weekend.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention, Jim, Tarazzi get injured as well in the first half.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's going down at Celtic Park tonight. Everybody seems to be getting injured, but I think Carl Vickers got injured after the final whistle, or maybe the camera missed that one because it was after the final whistle, Jim, as well. But look, everybody was interested against Celtic because obviously they've got the big game coming up on Sunday, but it was going to be interesting how they bounced back after that disappointing defeat on Sunday. But as I said, maybe after like the half an hour mark, Celtic got into deep gear a wee bit. They were creating chances. Okay, they were half chances, but as Neil Lennon said again, commentary, that you would rather have these chances than no chances at all. As well, I wanted your kind of like take on Joe Kenny. That he come on, he played 80 minutes tonight. I thought he was quite decent tonight.
Yeah, he looked the part. I've actually seen him a couple of times, and I kept tabs on him when he was in Ireland as well. For my sins, I tend to keep an eye on other leagues, especially lower leagues in England. That is a big part in my column in the Sun on a Saturday. And I keep tabs on leagues around Europe. When I used to work for Setanta Sports, I covered French football, German football, Dutch football, And because of family connections, I'm back and forward to Ireland quite a bit, and I keep tabs on the Irish football as well. So the lad has done very, very well. He's come back to Celtic. He's been given a new contract. He hasn't had a lot of game time, but he got a right lot of game time tonight. And as you say, Michael, he did very well. And that can only do him good in the long run. And I just detected from a very buoyant sounding Neil Lennon with Dunfermline's form picking up over the last couple of weeks. I just detected that Neil has a soft spot for Kenny as well. And I wish him well. I thought he did well. And given that injury to, again, I'm not very good at this pronunciation, Iheanacho, my apologies, sir, if you're listening. I think that given the injury to him, then that is going to be a big thing for Brendan Rodgers, that he at least knows that Kenny can come in if that's the way he wants to play at Tynecastle. I could be completely barking up the wrong tree there, because he may have a completely different idea as to how he's going to play at Tynecastle. And actually, just off the top of my head, I suspect he probably will.
I think it all depends. It'll be interesting to hear what Brendan Rodgers says after the game. But also, I would be interested to see him tomorrow as well, because, in fact, he's just coming on TNT now. I'm not a rigger by any matter, Jim, and I've not get subtitles here. But I think the Celtic fans will be hoping that Alistair Johnson will be semi-okay for Sunday as well. But it really depends on what kind of team that he picks on Sunday. It really depends on the injuries to these guys that we kind of mentioned.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. And of course, I don't know how much time Brendan Rodgers himself would have had to watch Hearts, apart from the obvious video study. But he will have had his people watching Hearts, and he will know how Derek McInnes has been attacking these fixtures at Tynecastle this season. Remember, the only blip in Hearts season, in Hearts Tynecastle season, really, was that game against Motherwell when they went 3-0 down. Astonishingly, anybody tuning in and seeing that halftime score couldn't have believed it. But they were 3-0 down at halftime at Tynecastle to Motherwell. They mounted a tremendous comeback to get it back to 3-3. And then Braga hit the post in the dying minutes. They could have actually won the game 4-3. So Hearts are definitely a force to be reckoned with this season. I think they're always a force to be reckoned with at Tynecastle to some extent or another. But certainly this season, as I said, now they've got that Motherwell blip out of the way, I think Tynecastle is going to become a fortress for Hearts this season. They had a tremendous result against Hibs a couple of weeks ago. They've continued in buoyant form. Lawrence Shankland is back scoring goals again. There seems to be a real confidence running through the team. And even off the pitch, there seems to be a lot going on there, which the fans and everybody else watching the club seems to be very happy with. And I refer, of course, to the financial investment of Tony Bloom, who has worked wonders with his money at Brighton and also with a club in Belgium. I think it's Union Saint-Gallois. And he's also in my other sport, horse racing. He's a hugely influential owner in horse racing as well. And I know from both sports that everything or most things that Tony Bloom touches do turn to a nice shade of yellow. And I think that the money he's put into Hearts, he'll be disappointed to know that due to financial restrictions, he's not allowed to put any more in the meantime. But I think the money he's put into Hearts in the short term is certainly paying dividends. And also the behind-the-scenes work which is going on with his team as well, in terms of all the pre-planning and all the word escapes me, the money they put into the organisational stuff behind the scenes. But all that work is paying off for Hearts at the moment. And I think that the proof will be in the pudding against Celtic. I know that they've beaten Rangers already, but most people would suggest that probably wasn't the biggest surprise in the world, even though it was at Ibrox. But now they have to take on the champions Celtic. However well or badly they're playing at the moment, they have to take on the reigning champions. They get the advantage of having it on their home turf on a Sunday afternoon with the cameras on them. They have to prove to everyone that they are the real deal. And my strong suspicion, only a suspicion at this stage, despite seeing a little bit of improvement from Celtic tonight is that Hearts will be able to step up to the plate.
I was going to ask you that, Jim, but I don't know about you, but when people says "Dear Michael and Jim," I always feel very, very important, but I'm not really important. But he says, "What do you reckon the score will be on Sunday? Hearts against Celtic." That's from Brian O'Rourke 11. He is watching on YouTube, and don't forget you can subscribe to the channel. Brian and everybody that's watching on the Scottish Football Zone. We'll get maybe a wee insight. Well, we got a wee insight there from Jim or about Sunday. I just wanted to go back to tonight's game, and I thought another guy played well for Celtic. He missed a few chances tonight, Jim, but he got a good goal from a corner kick. Yes, I did say that. Celtic did score from a corner kick. I don't know when the last game Celtic scored from a corner kick, but Benjamin Meadlin, it was a brilliant goal, Jim. But I thought he did well tonight as well.
He did. I mentioned earlier on, just in that little intro, that I thought he had several chances before he scored. One of them was what you would have to call a gold-plated sitter, which he managed to miss. But he did come good and get that goal, and it could turn out to be a very important goal for Celtic in terms of their European campaign. So it enabled them to get the victory after Scales got the equaliser. So well done him. I was impressed by him tonight. I think he's done well for Celtic so far. He maybe hasn't come up to the levels that everybody was hoping for straight away, but I think he will come good. I think the Celtic fans will be happy enough that he got on the score sheet tonight. And didn't he look delighted? Again, I was only watching on TV, but didn't he look delighted after he scored his goal? And good luck to him going forward. But it's a team game, and Celtic do need individuals playing well, but they also need to come together. And I just wonder, despite that victory tonight, it's not quite there yet. And without going overboard and slamming this point home, Hearts have to prove themselves at the weekend. Hearts have to prove they are the real deal. And I think without going overboard and tipping Hearts to definitely win this match, I think they have a really good opportunity to win this match, given that Celtic are probably firing, and I'm being generous here, at about 75%.
As you can see, Alex has joined us tonight. I know you were George Square tonight, I think it was, interviewing the Sturm Graz fans, and I don't know if you saw this, Jim, but there was a lot of them in Glasgow tonight, and a lot of them at the game as well. What was the atmosphere like? Obviously, it's going to be a different atmosphere now, going back to the airport and stuff like that, but were they confident going into tonight's game?
Yeah, it was mixed messages from. I only spoke to a couple, and I was quite annoyed actually, because after I'd interviewed a few and checked the audio equipment, it had failed, which was disastrous. But no, I got a couple of sound bites, and most of them were fairly confident. I think a lot of them were aware of the fact that Celtic weren't firing on all cylinders, even though they themselves, they don't believe they're as good as they were in previous years, although they are top of the Austrian Bundesliga. But it was a great atmosphere, and then I actually got the train over to Parkhead with Ethan was with me tonight as well, and we spoke to a couple of Celtic fans outside the ground also, and then we saw the Sturm Graz fans getting escorted by the police. And it was some atmosphere from them walking into the ground. I think there was like 2,500 tonight. And yeah, they were there in numbers. And I think they were quite confident. Obviously, it didn't turn out that way for them. But it was pretty cool to see, for lack of a better phrase.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm just looking at the league table here. Celtic's now sitting 21st. Alex would want to cover his ears here because Rangers are 39th in the table. I think they're holding the table up by a bit of feather tape as well. Jim, I just wanted to come back to Sturm Graz when went down to 10 men. And usually you would say, well, that's got to go to VAR. But Lee, that kind of like decision, that was a red card all day long. And I'm surprised McGregor got up.
You're testing my memory here because I think I only come back in. I was popping in and out doing some other stuff, and I think I only come back in and saw the red card. So maybe you can tell me what happened there.
Yeah, so it was a ball in the middle of the park, and the guy just went basically over McGregor's foot. And it was one of these ones where you think it was going to be a leg breaker because it was kind of like dangerous. And first term, when you saw the replay, you weren't sure, but when you saw it second, third time, you were like, "Oh yeah, that's a red card goal. They look wrong,"
Right.
and the guy didn't have any complaints, so that's why he gets sent off for.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was.
When you go,
it was one of the. Sorry. It was one of the ones where I think McGregor's lucky that his leg wasn't fully planted. Because, well, like Michael said, it could have been a leg breaker, and I agree with him. In initial first replay, you're a wee bit like, to me, my initial reaction was it was one of those ones where if it's given on the park, it probably won't be overturned. But I thought it was on the line, and then I saw another angle of it, and I thought, oh, that's a really bad challenge. It's definitely a red card.
Right. Well, having heard from both of you now, that's that's got to be good news for Callum McGregor that he wasn't badly injured in that particular situation, especially given what we've mentioned already about the ongoing injury situation with these Celtic players going forward. I think Brendan Rodgers' news conference on Friday at Lennoxtown is going to be very, very interesting when he gives the media a list of who is available for this game at Tynecastle on Sunday. It is such a huge match, and he certainly doesn't want to have at least one arm tied up behind his back going over there against a Derek McInnes side, which is absolutely firing in all cylinders and seems to be playing the best football in Scotland at the moment. Although I suppose there'll be one or two Motherwell fans that would suggest that they're playing some pretty good football, but they maybe don't have the points on the board to match Hearts' achievements.
Before we let you go, Jim, just a quick one, and we've spoke about it tonight. Obviously, Celtic won 2-1 against Graz, and it was interesting to see how they bounced back from Dundee on Sunday. But again, as supporters and all that, it's okay winning one game, but if you beat Hearts, then you get a bit of kind of momentum, especially going into the League Cup semi-final.
That really would get the momentum going for the League Cup semi-final. I have to say, I've been thinking in terms of my football column for this weekend, I've been thinking more about the Hearts game than looking ahead to the following weekend. But yes, like people like the Celtic manager in particular will have to be thinking 2-3 games ahead, not just this game at the weekend, as important as it is at Tynecastle. He also has to think that Celtic want to get to a League Cup final with the possibility of taking on either St Mirren or Motherwell. Of course, they would be favourites for that, but they were long odds-on favourites to beat Aberdeen as well. And look what happened there back in May. So, it would give Celtic a major lift if they got some kind of result at Tynecastle at the weekend. I wonder, though, would a good result, maybe you can answer me this one, Michael, would a good result for Celtic at the weekend or an acceptable result for Celtic at the weekend be a draw?
Well, obviously, because I think the next game against Celtic, the game against Hearts is in December, and I'm sure Santa won't come out at half time of that game because we all knew what happened before. But yeah, I think going away from home to a hostile atmosphere at Tynecastle as well. And look, I mean, even if Hearts weren't up there challenging this early on, Jim, it's always difficult for Celtic to go there. I mean, I was thinking about it today, and I don't know about you, Alex, but I think the last time the Hearts fans were really say, yeah, we're going to be out there challenging was back in when George Burley was the manager. Am I right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I probably couldn't speak to that because I was born in 2005. So I was probably only really young at the time. So I probably couldn't speak to that. But there is a feeling about Hearts. I think for me, after the 3-0 win at Rugby Park, that kind of solidified them for me. Is like, okay, they can get something against Celtic. I think you mentioned there, Jim, about Celtic fans might see a draw as a decent result. I think the Hearts fans on the other side would see a draw as a great result as well, sort of maintaining that lead at the top of the table, although they probably would want the win. I think some of them are still hesitant on whether they want to sort of go all in and go, yeah, we're going for the title. I think some of them are still hesitant to say that, but I think after this win against Kilmarnock, and if they avoid defeat against Celtic, I think I would be confident in saying I think they're in with a real shout this season.
Yeah, I fully take that point, Alex. Fully take that point. I just think that Hearts have a chance to go for the jugular on Sunday. Yes, in normal circumstances, a draw would be considered a good result to keep them 5 points clear. But when you're visibly playing better than Celtic at the moment, and you're playing at home, and you have the chance to go 8 points clear in the Championship going into November, I think they have to be thinking 3 points, not one. And just before I go, I do remember the George Burley situation quite a few years ago now when Hearts were clear at the top of the league. I think it was after 8 games. And the chairman at the time, he decided that George Burley wasn't the man for the job when they were sitting top of the league, clear, playing some terrific football. And I remember I was meant to be doing the STV lunchtime programme in Glasgow that Saturday. And I got a phone call on the Saturday morning about 8 o'clock telling me to get through to Tynecastle. We were doing it live from Edinburgh. So it was a dramatic day. Probably a huge mistake on Hearts' parts to get rid of George Burley back then. But let's be honest, guys. Derek McInnes is not going to be sacked on Saturday. And I think that Derek McInnes is going to see this season out. And we shall see how they get on Sunday. But as I say, one last time, they have to go for the jugular this weekend. They can't say a draw is good enough.
There you go. You've heard it here first. Jim, thanks for joining us on the show tonight, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you very much, guys. All the very best.
Sure, Jim.
Cheers.
There you go. That was broadcasting royalty on the show tonight, and I'm not talking about me and Alex. We're talking about Mr. STV and a program called, is it Super Scoreboard? By the way, I'm just being a bit flippant when I say that. Jim Dillahunt there joining us on the show, and hopefully Jim will be back with us very, very soon. Alex, I know that you never saw any of the Celtic game tonight, but I mean, what kind of game were you expecting tonight?
I mean, I caught sort of the back half of it when I came in. I was expecting it probably the way it went. I was expecting Celtic to win, but I was expecting it not to be, super pretty because I feel like Celtic, the current Celtic side, aren't capable of that at the moment. And yeah, they go 1-0 down. They suffer 2 major injury blows. Michael, I didn't catch it, but did Alistair Johnson's injury look bad again? Was he holding his hammy again?
Yeah, no, that was early on in the game, Alex. That was about, if memory serves me right, it was about maybe towards the 50-minute mark of the game. And they said on the TV it's his hamstring. Now, I haven't heard from Brendan Rodgers, obviously, because we've been doing this show, but I'll be interested to hear what he says after we go off it as well. But
I think they've rushed him. They've rushed him back. It looks like, because I think his original timeline was, maybe December, January, right? But then a lot of people were given hope because I think a couple of weeks ago he was back on the grass, but people thought like training and stuff, but people thought, it still won't be for another while. I was really surprised to see him, start tonight, and then when I saw him subbed off, I thought, he's done his hamstring. I didn't see it at the time, but thanks for confirming that for me there, Michael. Really, that strikes me. That strikes me as a bit of desperation from Brendan Rodgers. Maybe a bit of mismanagement on the medical team's part. Maybe they've sort of rushed them, rushed him back. Maybe he's rushed himself back. Maybe he's, said, "Oh no, I'm good to go." And now I don't know how long it could be, but the fact he's done it again is really, really sad for him, and it will be detrimental to Celtic, because I think me and Ethan were talking about how Celtic's sort of plays been impacted by their fullbacks and how they play, and losing Greg Taylor was a big thing, and then obviously losing Alistair Johnston to injury has been big as well. And then they get him back, and he's gone straight away. And obviously Celtic get the result in the end, but the two injury blows could be detrimental to the game against Hearts and to their season. I don't know how bad the two are, but to be subbed off in the sort of 4th minute, I think Iheanacho was, and then Alistair Johnston not long after that is massive injury blows. But they do get the win in the end. A beautiful finish from Liam Scales, of all people. Really, really nice finish from him. He's been good. He was good in the game overall. I think this season, a lot of people would say maybe he's been Celtic's best player. And then obviously Benjamin Nygren gets his goal, and he was looking for a goal the full night. He had loads of opportunities. Some of the strangest goalkeeping I've ever seen, I think, from the Sturm Graz goalkeeper. But Nygren wasn't caring, and he puts it in the back of the net. Celtic get the win, but I think there's definitely still, I think there's definitely still a lot of work to be done, unfortunately. And you could tell when I was talking to the fans around the ground tonight, you could tell there was still that element of, they're not super happy right there, although they're loyal and they still will support their club.
Yeah, no, and I don't know if you heard me saying that Carter Vickers got injured as well after the game. Now, I don't know what happened because obviously the cameras went on him after the final whistle, so I don't really know about that one. I know you're stalling for time, Ethan. Not Ethan, Alex. Because I think the next game in fact, the next two games that you don't want to talk about, the final score. But what I want to maybe speak about is, I know we were on Tuesday night, was it? Yeah, Tuesday night when Danny Rowe got appointed as well. Now, one thing I hate to see in football is supporters getting on a manager's back after the game. Now, I don't know if you saw this, Alex. It's going around on social media. And basically, this fan had to get held back from what was Danny Rowe came up to applaud the fans since for coming and all the rest of it. And I know fans really get annoyed because they're paying all that money to go over there. But it's not his fault, he's only in the door. He's not had a lot of time to work with the team. It's not maybe his tactics yet or whatever. So I don't like to see that.
So was this guy actually blaming Danny Roll himself?
Yeah, so if you I will send you the now. Basically this guy had to get held back by a steward because he was shouting at him. Now it's on a picture. I haven't saw what he said, but you could imagine what he was saying to him. But I mean, don't blame the guy. It's just in the door, you know, and it's awful to see that. I know we're going to maybe talk about the game, and Alex doesn't want to talk about the game, but like it's quite sad to see somebody just in the door and he's getting abuse off of a fan.
Right. Yeah, I think that's crazy. Obviously, frustration from supporters about the season is boiled over, perhaps. But I think going after the guy who's just in the door is really poor. I just saw something interesting there, Michael, when I was looking through Twitter there. Obviously, Jack Butland made comments about certain players having the wrong attitude at the weekend. And then
Yep.
I've just read a quote from Tavernier there directly after the game saying it just doesn't sink in for some players. So that's interesting that the two separate incidents have come up of them talking about. I wonder who those players are, because it's clearly an issue now. Two senior players in the dressing room making comment like that. So there could be issues in the dressing room on top of a crazy supporter already losing the rag with Danny Roll. So not a great night for Rangers, and I would count myself lucky. I didn't see the game because I was trying to get some interviews in and around Celtic Park. Obviously, I did have live score updates on, so every now and again I'd check my phone and go, oh no, another one. But yeah, really, really shocking from Rangers. I spoke to my dad, who did watch the game when I got in. Apparently, the defending was dreadful, just all through the night, which is a theme of Rangers this season. Yusuf Chermiti has received a lot of stick for not playing very well either. So that, as much in terms of actually talking about the game, that's probably all I could contribute at the moment, unfortunately, Michael. But yeah, really, really poor night for Rangers, and a shocking start for Danny Roll. And I mean, I don't think anyone should blame him, but obviously, I think that we need to go back to the players needing to hold some accountability and responsibility. And Branner a good side, right? However, I don't know if they've gone on leaps and bounds since then. But a couple of years ago, they went toe to toe with St Mirren. I mean, this Rangers team would probably lose to that St Mirren, but they went toe to toe St Mirren. They're currently third in the Norwegian league, behind Bodo Glimt and Viking, by a decent distance. I know Rangers are sixth in the Scottish Premiership as well. So, I mean, these arguments don't really hold much weight. But even a Rangers team of last year under Philippe Clement, I think, would beat Brann, and they would beat Genk, and they would beat Sturm Graz, and they probably would be up, maybe even competing for the league with Hearts. That this time last year. I mean, I know Philippe Clement's time at Rangers came to a shocking end off the back of a 1-0 defeat to Queen's Park in the Scottish Cup. But yeah, it's just the regression is astounding. And, Danny Roll's off to a poor start. However, I don't think he should be judged off of this game. I think the real test is coming up against a really good Kilmarnock side. And you need to, I think, people can maybe excuse this because he's been in the door for a couple of days, maybe blame the players. But if Rangers don't get a result on Sunday, I think the pressure piles on him even more. He's already coming in with a lot of pressure. And I'm not saying I would want him out the door, but I just think he needs to get off to a good start, because it will become a pressure cooker very quickly.
Yeah, I don't think the Camargo game is coming very, very quickly. And obviously, I think he's going to be judged because, in fact, he won't have any time to work with. So that he'll have time to work with the players before the Celtic Rangers game in the semi-final. But I think he's got another midweek game coming up next week as well. So
I think it's Roma, so that'll be fun. I think I might be going to that one.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not a European game. It's a Premiership game. Aye.
Is it not Roma next week?
No, because I know there's a full card next week, and I know Celtic's at home to Falkirk. So
Rangers are away to Hibs.
Right, okay.
And then it's the semi-final, and then it's Roma. Okay.
So I mean, yeah, I mean, all I could say in highlight form to you, Alex, was you never miss much, obviously. Rangers started the game well. Raskin had a shot. Obviously, Jack Butland. How many times I would say that in the show this season that he kept Rangers in the game, even though they get beat. I know that's a bit weird me saying that as well, but I mean, so going back to your comment there about James Cavalier was saying after the game, that's some statement that's from your captain, you know, and something's not right at Ibrox. But also what I was saying was for weeks on the show we were saying about Russell Martin's style of play, right? But now that you're saying to me like that, it might be not the manager, it might be the players. It's a divide in the dressing room.
Yeah, I think time will tell on that front. I think time will tell if the players take to Danny Roll and start playing well. But it certainly could be a possibility. Rangers could have a rotten dressing room. And maybe there are already signs pointing towards that in terms of James Tavernier and Jack Butland coming out and making similar comments. And, that could be the real issue. I mean, there's been a lot of discussions over the years, in recent years, about player power and stuff like that. Maybe the players in the dressing room think they've got the power right now, and that could be an issue. But I think once we get a few games in with Danny Roll, and if nothing's changing, I think we'll see. We'll see whether it's the players or not, because I mean, one bad manager, fine, right? But if it's if the same group get their managerial change and they're just as bad continuously, it's got to be the players. And then there needs to be a revamp already in January. But I'm talking a bit crazy. I'm thinking very, very far ahead here. But I think, like I've said about 3 times already, time will tell if Rangers start winning or not.
The problem with this, Alex, as well, that and maybe you're too close to comment because you are a Rangers fan, but you just can't keep sacking managers.
No, yeah, I think if we look back with hindsight, the sort of start of the proper downward spiral was when we sacked Giovanni van Bronckhorst. Although I do see a lot of fans talking about how we should have sacked him, but the fan feeling at the time was to get rid of them. So there's a lot of hypocrites about. But everything. What do they say? Everything's easier with hindsight. 2020 hindsight. It's So I think that was the start of the spiral, and it's just not worked with managers that we've had, and it's got progressively worse. And I agree with you, Michael. Oh, excuse me for yawning in the middle of this recording, but
I think a lot of Rangers fans would be yawning at that game tonight, Alex.
Yeah, yawning, not crying. No, but I think you're right, Michael. We can't keep sacking managers. It's just not sustainable. You'll never build something with that. But it's a difficult line to walk. Oh God, I'm yawning all over the place now. But it is a difficult line to walk when you've got the pressures of a club like Rangers, and it's an easy thing to say for maybe the fans need to lower their expectations, but it's been ingrained in so many of us, even in me. And I've grown up in an era where Rangers haven't been particularly successful. I still demand a win every single time. It's still like even though I've not come to expect a lot recently, I'm still I'm still thinking we should win every game. But I'm being realistic. Obviously, we aren't going to win every game because we're rubbish right now. But you still have that sort of mentality of we need to win the game. Even tonight, I was just thinking, we've got a new manager and we'll get off to a good start. And we'll just go like optimistic thinking, maybe entitled. People would other supporters would call it entitled thinking. That everything will go right and we'll start winning again because that's the Rangers way. And yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's ingrained in so many supporters that it is difficult to sort of lower your expectations in that way and let a manager have real time.
I mean, you didn't think that Danny Rowe and all that was going to lay down the changes of tactics and all that before the game, because I mean he's only had maybe 2.5 days or maybe just 2 days to work for them. But also I would go back to the board and that, Alex, as well, because the thing is as well, right, this Rangers manager merry-go-round, it's a bit like the hokey a wee bit, because you're in, you're out, you shake it up about and stuff like that, but like, surely the board knew that Rangers had massive games coming up after the international break. And you said to me on Tuesday night, I'm surprised that Rangers didn't appoint a manager within a week of the international window. And then when they come back, nope, no manager. Steven Gerrard, Danny Rowe, maybe. It's all a bit of a mess. And I know Rangers are a big club, but they're not really acting like a big club, Alex.
No, they're not, and they haven't been acting like a big club for a while. And I think that's something the 49ers are trying to get going, but it hasn't worked so far. And we obviously don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but they should. The sort of time that they sacked Russell Martin, they should have been able to bring somebody in. I'd agree with Brian there, just on that comment. They are awful, and the silverware sort of intake's not been good enough. And yeah, Rangers might not win another thing in a while, because Rangers are a state. They are probably, the table says they're the 6th best team. Obviously, the table's really tight. I'd say that's about right, maybe. In terms of squad, they should be higher, but that's football. Football doesn't get played on paper. Rangers are shocking right now, and I'm hoping that it can get turned around, because I'm getting a wee bit exhausted just talking about how bad Rangers are all the time. I've got to the point where I'm enjoying covering Hearts. I'm I'm enjoying covering the other teams, and you know, I enjoy covering them before, but I look forward to it as like an escape instead of talking about Rangers again. I mean, you know, if Rangers win and win on Sunday and then win on Wednesday and then beat Celtic in the League Cup semi, I'll probably be on here the happiest guy you've ever seen. You know, excited to talk about Rangers again, but you do get beaten down after a while. Maybe that's good for my career though, in terms of being a journalist. If I'm feeling less attached to Rangers, you know, maybe that'll be good for me in my career. But yeah, it's tough right now, and I know there'll be people laughing at me, going, "Oh, this is a sob story from the Rangers fan and all that." I'm just saying how it is right now for me, how I feel, and probably how a lot of Rangers fans feel. And yeah, we need something to latch onto.
I'm not doing this on purpose, Alex, but let's make you even get placed more by talking about the Aberdeen game tonight. We'll spend maybe about 5 seconds talking about this game. You know, Willie Miller has been quoted as saying Aberdeen's the result tonight against AEK Athens 6 Aberdeen 0 was embarrassing. I would go maybe one step further and say embarrassing for Scottish football tonight. And obviously the night will be for Jimmy Tureen, but you know, a lot of Aberdeen fans and maybe Willie Miller and people, ex-Aberdeen players saying in the media that if it wasn't for the Scottish Cup win, Jimmy Tureen would have been away to be the Swigan manager maybe months ago. But do you think that's it for Jimmy? He can't come back from that tonight?
No, probably not, because the league is probably the most important thing for Aberdeen. I don't think they're expecting anything in the Conference League. Obviously, this is a humiliating defeat. I was just looking at the stats there, and I don't think I've ever. Obviously, 6-0 is the main one you look at and go mental. But in terms of expected goals, AK Athens had 5.13, and I don't think I've ever seen an expected goals that high. You know, even PSG scored 7 the other night against Bayer Leverkusen, and their expected goals were 2.86. It's usually in these kind of blowouts that teams overperform their XG by quite a lot. Obviously, AK have overperformed their XG tonight, but not by much, which means, you know, the quality of shots they were taking, you know, was just, you know, it justifies the result. It means they were getting into these areas with ease and cutting Aberdeen open. And it is embarrassing for Scottish football. I think overall it's an embarrassing night. I know Celtic won, but that's to be expected. Aberdeen was shocking. Rangers was shocking. Celtic got the win, but you know, Sturm Graz, the Rangers probably should have beat them. Even Barry Ferguson, or I'd even go far to say Michael Beale Rangers team would have beat Sturm Graz a few weeks ago. Maybe even a Kashinya one, you never know. But you know, Celtic were expected to win, but yeah, Rangers and Aberdeen, really shocking. And it continues a poor showing for Scottish teams. I think since the knockouts, Celtic are the only team to win, and they've won one. Since the playoffs, to get into the competitions. So I don't really know what else to say. It's quite depressing, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we every season we're hoping for teams could, you know, qualify, but after tonight, you're like that. Why qualify? Because it's a big slap in the face to Scottish football, and we're trying to sell the game overseas as well to TV companies and all the rest of it. And when they see that, it's just like, come on, man,
Yeah. To any TV companies watching, if you want to buy this show,
yeah,
just let us
yeah,
know. Or a wee sponsor or something.
exactly, yeah. Well, I'll put Alex out of his misery and say thanks for joining me tonight to look back on a mixed, disappointing night, you would say, for Scottish clubs in Europe.
Disappointing's an understatement, I think.
Yeah, well, that's a polite way of putting it. And stuff like that. Thanks to Jim Dillahunt for joining us early on. Thanks to Alex. Thanks to all your comments as well. We'll be back tomorrow to speak about more football at the weekend. And let's hope for a positive weekend with millions of goals in the Premiership. It does make you a bit depressed, actually. But anyway, so thanks for watching, and we will see you tomorrow live at 5. Bye.
You're watching the Scottish Football Zone with all the build-up and reactions.